ॐ विश्वन्दर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठम् अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्रीपरमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. I welcome you all to the 18th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. We have been discussing the question of how an adhikari for the study of Vedanta becomes an adhikari. And for this, we said the adhikari has to meet three conditions. Firstly, the adhikari must be a mumukshuhu, a seeker of moksha. Secondly, the adhikari must be a jigyasuhu, somebody who sees the indispensable connection between the study of Vedanta and the benefit, which is Purnatvam. And the third is that the adhikari must have a certain preparedness of mind. So we have already answered two questions of how the adhikari becomes a mumukshuhu and how the adhikari becomes a jigyasuhu. How does the adhikari become a mumukshuhu? By discovering the problem of samsaraha. And the discovery of the problem of samsaraha is the discovery that the struggle to gain purnatvam out of the first three purusharthas is never ending. And this person who leads a lifestyle of karma yoga, he discovers that the accomplishments in the field of the first three purusharthas, they are mixed with three doshas, dukkha mishritatvam, they are mixed with sorrow, atriptikaratvam, they leave me unfulfilled, and bandhakatvam, they make me more and more dependent on things and beings of the world that are inherently uncontrollable, unsustainable, and unpredictable. So when one sees this, when one truly understands this, then one begins to ask, is there any other way in which I can gain this purnatvam, this unconditional fulfillment? And at that point, the Veda Purva tells this person that I have given you whatever I can. I have given you arthaha, kamaha, and dharmaha. But now what you are asking for, this is beyond my scope. And for this, you need to approach Vedanta because you are a seeker of moksha. So this is how one becomes a mumukshu. Then the next question is, how does this person become a jigyasuhu? When this person approaches Vedanta, Vedanta tells him that this purnatvam that you are seeking is your very nature. You are ignorant of your own nature of being Purnaha, just as the 10th man was ignorant of being the 10th man. And Vedanta explains that I am. The Samanya Jnanam is there that I am. I don't have any doubt about this. But the Vishesha Jnanam of who I am is not there. And when Samanya Jnanam is there, but Vishesha Jnanam is not there, that is ideal condition for a mistake. And I make a mistake about myself. I start superimposing things upon this I am, just as I superimpose a snake upon a rope that has not been seen. So similarly, I start to superimpose the limitations of the body and the mind upon this I am that I have not known properly. And then I start to say, I am apurnaha, I am incomplete, I am unfulfilled. And then I embark on a search for this purnatvam in the domain of artha, kamaha, and dharmaha. But whatever I do there, none of it really is inimical to my self-ignorance. It doesn't affect my self-ignorance in any way. It just leaves it intact. If at all, it only reinforces it. So my self-ignorance remains untouched, and therefore the superimposition remains untouched. So I remain apurnaha in my own vision. No matter how much I accomplish in the field of artha, kama, and dharma, I see myself as being incomplete. And therefore, Vedanta says that until this ignorance goes, you cannot gain purnatvam. And therefore, that's the root cause of all of my struggle, all of my samsara is diagnosed to be this self-ignorance. And when one really sees this, then one becomes a jigyasuhu, a seeker of knowledge, because only knowledge is inimical to ignorance. But even after one becomes a jigyasuhu, we are saying that there are several questions surrounding this topic of knowledge that are not clear. And when they are not clear, then again one can get into some kind of a spiritual samsara, trying to gain this purnatvam or knowledge through various other means other than how it should be approached. And therefore, we got into this inquiry of how does knowledge take place? And that is why we started discussing this topic of pramanas. And we said this is an extremely crucial topic. Because only when this topic is clear will everything else surrounding this topic of knowledge become clear. So, Vedanta identifies these 6 pramanas: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Arthapattihi, Anupalabdhihi, Upamana, and Shabdaha. 6 pramanas are there. We discussed all of this in great detail. And then we came to the topic of which of these pramanas can lead me to Atmajnanam. And we dismissed Pratyaksha, perception, as being a possible source of Atmajnanam because this Atma, this knower, this self, the Drik as we called it, is attributeless. Because as we said, that whatever is seen is Drishyam, it is never the Drik. And any attribute that is seen belongs to the Drishyam, never to the Drik. So this Drik is attributeless. And being attributeless, it doesn't have Shabdaha, Sparshaha, Rupaha, Rasaha, and Gandhaha. Doesn't have any of these attributes. And therefore, Pratyaksha, which only operates in the field where such attributes are available, Pratyaksha cannot be employed. And when Pratyaksha is gone, the other pramanas, like Anumana, Arthapattihi, and Upamana, They are based on pratyaksha because they rely on some factor, some data being available via pratyaksha, based on which I can gain some knowledge. So when you have removed the foundation, these pramanas also collapse when it comes to self-knowledge. Then we talked about anupalabdhihi, and anupalabdhihi is also not applicable because it is meant to gain jnanam of non-existent things. But this Atma, this I am, very much existent. I know that I exist. So anupalabdhihi is also not applicable. And then we talked about Shabda. And in the context of Shabda, we first discussed Laukika Shabdas, with the Shabdas that are uttered by a human being. And they are just carriers of knowledge that is gained through these other 5 pramanas that we have dismissed. Laukika Shabdas just are carriers of knowledge gained through these other 5 pramanas, which are already dismissed. And therefore, Laukika Shabdas are also incapable of revealing who the Atma is. So then we said that this is a sort of a crisis because we said moksha is eka sadhana sadhyam. Moksha can be accomplished only through one means, which is jnanam. And we said jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam. Jnanam can be accomplished only through one means, which is a pramana. And if we have dismissed all of these pramanas, that means jnanam, atma jnanam is not possible through these pramanas. And if atma jnanam is not possible, moksha is not possible. So does this mean that moksha is impossible, jnanam being impossible? And we said no. Even though atma jnanam and moksha are not possible through these pramanas, moksha is still possible because Atma Jnanam is possible, but through a different Shabda Pramana, which is the Vaidika Shabda Pramana. So we came to the words of the Vedas. Then what is so unique? This is what we discussed in the last class. What is so unique about the Vaidika Shabda Pramana? And we said that unlike the Laukika Shabda Pramana, Laukika Shabdas, which are carriers of knowledge gained through Laukika Pramanas, the Vedika Shabdas are themselves the revealers of knowledge that cannot be gained through any other Pramana. This is a crucial difference. And this is a game changer. This has to be truly appreciated. Only then it becomes clear as to why the Vedas are the means, why the Vedika Shabdas are the means for Atma Jnanam. That is why we looked at this definition of the Veda itself by Sayanacharya in the Veda Bhashya that says, Pratyakshenānumityāvā yastu payo na buddhyate enam vidanti vedena tasmat vedasya vedata. So this definition says that whatever you cannot gain through pratyaksha, anumana, etc., through the laukika pramanas, that is the subject matter of the Veda. Yastu payona buddhyate. Whatever means and ends you cannot figure out through laukika pramanas, you know it through the Veda, and that is why the Veda is the Veda. Then we talked about who is the author of the Veda. Because anytime we hear some significant, we see some significant words or hear some significant words, our natural question is, who is the author? And we said that the tradition presents the Veda as being a Paurusheya. A Paurusheya. Paurusheya means of human origin. And tradition says Veda is a Paurusheya, not of human origin. And it is clear why the tradition takes such a stand, because if it was of human origin, it would become Laukika Shabdas, which then cannot be a pramana for the things that are not known through the Laukika Pramanas. We say even Ishvara is not the author of the Vedas. In fact, the Vedas are already there in Ishvara, and when the Srishti emerges out of Ishvara, the Vedas are also made manifest. And being apaurusheya, the Vedas are considered to be a nirdushta pramana, meaning a faultless pramana. And why is it faultless? Because the knowledge contained therein is not limited by Laukika Pramanas, firstly. Because it is not gained through Laukika Pramanas. And secondly, because it is not Paurusheya, it doesn't have any taint of ignorance, human ignorance. Then how did we arrive at these words? We took the example of how a radio is an instrument that is fine-tuned to receive these words that are encoded in the form of these radio waves that are everywhere. We cannot see it, we cannot hear it, but the moment this radio is tuned, we start to receive these waves. So similarly, we say the Vedas already there in the creation. Once the creation emerged, the Vedas also emerged, like we said, like the breath of Ishvara, effortlessly they emerge. And then what is required is a Rishi whose mind is extremely subtle, Sukshma Buddhi. Such a Rishi has this fine instrument that can perceive the Veda. And we also said that the Rishi is not a mantra Rishayaha, na mantra kartaraha. They are not the creators of the mantra. They are mantra drashtaraha, meaning the seers of the mantras. And we took this example of a dream. Like I said, that when we are, some of us may have experienced this, that we might have learned some chants in the waking state, for example. And those chants are there in the mind. And like I said, I gave the example of doing Sandhyavandanam in a dream. So this happened to me quite a few times, that in the dream I thought I had woken up and I had started doing Sandhyavandanam by chanting the mantras. Now, if you look at the dream world as a self-contained entity, right, which originated, then within the dream world, nobody authored those mantras. But this person who's chanting in the dream, the mantras manifested through him because they were already there with the waker. So similarly, we say that the Vedas are already there with the super waker Ishvara. And this world has manifested out of Ishvara. So what is the difficulty in these mantras also manifesting in this world somehow? And we say it happens through the Rishi, because the Rishi has got this Ati Sukshma Buddhi. And then we discuss what the Veda says about this creation itself. It says that this Srishtihi, Sthitihi, Layaha is a never-ending process. The creation becomes manifest, it is sustained, and then it becomes unmanifest. And this keeps on repeating. And if somebody asks, when did the first creation happen? We say there was no first creation. It has always been like this. Anadihi, this process is anadihi. And in this whole thing, what is absolutely eternal? There's only one Nitya Vastu as per Vedanta. Absolutely eternal. Paramarthika Nityatvam or Kutastha Nityatvam, it is called. Absolute eternity is there only for one Vastu, which is Brahman. Only Brahman is absolutely eternal. It never comes, never goes, it is always there. But this Srishtihi keeps coming and going, arriving and departing. And this is called Pravaha Nityatvam, like a river that is flowing, is arriving and departing eternally. So similarly, the Srishtihi arrives and departs. Similarly, the Vedas also arrive with the Srishtihi. They become manifest and then they become unmanifest. We don't say it becomes non-existent. We just say it becomes unmanifest. And we took this example of a pot in a dark room. The pot is not seen initially, but does that mean it doesn't exist? No, it is there. When we throw light on it, the pot becomes seen. It becomes manifest. And then at some point, if I switch the light off, then I don't see the pot, but it still existed. It will become manifest again when I throw light on it. So this is how this Srishti is. This is how the Vedas are. So then what is the subject matter of the Veda? And we had looked at this sentence earlier when we were discussing Dharma Purushartha, and we were discussing this towards the end of the last class. We said that Veda is Dharma Brahma Pratipadakam Apaurusheyam Pramana Vakyam. Dharma Brahma Pratipadakam Apaurusheyam Pramana Vakyam. So it's in the form of Vakya, sentences. And what are these sentences? They are Pramana Vakyas. They reveal some knowledge that is not possible to be gained through Alaukika Pramanas, through Laukika Pramanas. And what kind of, and that is why it is Apaurusheyam Pramana Vakyam. And what is the subject matter? It is Dharma Brahma Pratipadakam. It reveals two things. One is what is Dharma, and the other is what is Brahman. We had discussed this when we were discussing Dharma Purushartha and Moksha Purushartha. We said that the materialists know of only two Purusharthas, which is Artha and Kama. And we said in order to know what more is there to life, one has to come to the Veda. Because only the Veda tells me that there are two other Purusharthas, Dharma and Moksha. And we discussed this example of this blind man who was stuck in a fort, and how this voice guided this blind man to a particular gate where he discovered freedom. So that's why this is called Shastra. Shasanat trayate iti Shastram. That which commands me and protects me. Shasanat trayate. Educates me and protects me. That is Shastram. So in the eyes of the Veda, the one who is purely dependent on Laukika Pramanas for all the knowledge is spiritually blind. Therefore, the Veda says that Veda is like a spiritual eye through which I can see things that I cannot through the Laukika Pramanas. Then one is no longer spiritually blind. If one comes to the Veda and one sees Dharma and the teaching of Dharma and the teaching of Brahman. So we were discussing what is Dharma, and this is one topic that we have discussed before. And we'll quickly recap what we discussed then. So we said Dharma has got three meanings. The first meaning is Chodana Lakshana Artha Dharma. From the Mimamsa Sutras. This is the very second sutra as we discussed. The lifestyle that is based on the Vedic commandments of Vedic do's and don'ts, vidhihi and nishedhaha, that is chodana, lakshanaha, arthaha, dharmaha. So this is dharmaha, the Vedic, the do's and don'ts that one knows from the Veda. And what are these do's and don'ts informing me? They are talking about duties, values, and attitudes. Values like Satyam Vada, Satyam, Ahimsa, Asteya, etc. And then attitudes like Matra Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. These attitudes. And then we talked about duties comprising of Yajna, Danam, and Tapaha. Yajna, being things like Panchamahayagya, etc., which is reverential service, and also various karmas, etc., that Vedas talk about, that we will look at today. And then Dhanam, we talked about this. We talked about the squirrel story, etc., that is highlighted in the Mahabharata. And then tapaha, comprising of discipline and austerities, in order to gain a certain mastery over my senses and over my likes and dislikes. Disciplines comprising of various religious observances, etc. So this is the first meaning of dharma. Then we talked about the second meaning of dharma, dharanat dharma, that which is associated with sustenance. Sustenance, harmony, order, maintenance of the order, well-being. These meanings are associated with the second meaning of dharma. So we said that all the other creatures that operate in this world, they are all programmed, and they cannot do anything that is wrong. In fact, whatever they do is right, because whatever they do contributes to the maintenance of this order. But then this human being has got this free will that can play some mischief. And because the human being also has likes and dislikes, this free will can become misguided. And a human being can make a wrong use of this free will. So the idea of right and wrong applies only to a human being. And therefore, the human being can do something that is wrong, that disturbs the order. And therefore, right action is something that promotes this order, well-being, and harmony. And we said it promotes it at 4 levels: at the level of the individual, family, society, and environment. So this is the second meaning of dharma. Then the third meaning of dharma, we said, is adrishtam, this unseen factor, which is called papa and punya. So this papa and punya, they originate from wrong action and right action respectively. So this is again unknowable through the Laukika Pramanas, and that is why the Veda is a Pramana for this. The Veda informs me about this existence of Papam and Punyam, and that the future unfolds for an individual, the future unfolds depending on the Papa and Punya. Papam leads to unconducive circumstances, whereas Punyam leads to conducive circumstances, whether it be material circumstances or even the spiritual, whether it be one's spiritual journey, whatever it be. So, in effect, we know about the law of karma through the Veda only. There's no other way to know it. And then we also come to know that this dharma in the form of punya and papa is what gets carried forward to the next world, in the next janma. In fact, it is the punya and papa that pull the human being or lead the human being to the next janma, the next loka, whatever it is. So in the context of Shastra being the pramana for dharma, I thought we will look at these 2 verses from the Bhagavad Gītā. The verse, that is what I had sent in the WhatsApp also, chapter 16, verse 23 and verse 24. So verse 23 says, where Krishna says, Yash Shastra Vidhim Utsrijya Vartate Kamakarataha न स सिद्धिम अवाप्नोति न सुखम न परांगतिम. Here Krishna says, Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsrijya Vartate Kamakarataha. Yaha Kamakarataha Shastra Vidhim Utsrijya Vartate. So what he says here is that one who is guided, who is driven by one's kamas, desires, likes and dislikes, If such a person, Shastra Vidhim Utsrajya, who ignores the commandment of the Shastra, what we have been talking about, the first meaning of the Shastra, Dharma, Chodana, Lakshana, Artha, Dharma is in the form of Vidhi and Nishedha. So the one who ignores this and tries to go after the objects of likes and dislikes, go after one's Artha and Kama, na sa siddhim avapnoti, na sukham na parangatim. Such a person cannot gain siddhi, means success or maturity here. Or even you can take Brahmagyana. All of these are outside an adharmic person cannot get to any of this. Na sukham, even worldly sukham he cannot get. Why? Because we have said that artha and kamaha should be subservient to dharma. Only then artha can yield security and kamaha can yield pleasure. If one violates dharma in the process, they cannot give what he is looking for. So na sukham, na parangatim. Even the next world, any higher loka, this person cannot gain. And then the next shloka says tasmat. तस्मात् शास्त्रं प्रमाणन्ते कार्याकार्यव्यवस्थितौ ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं कर्म कर्तुमिहार्हसि. So tasmat, therefore, says Krishna, tasmat shastram pramanante. So let the Shastra be your pramana for you. Let it be a pramana. This is a very appropriate verse because we are discussing the Shastra being a pramana for dharma. Tasmat Shastram Pramanante. What should be it be a pramana for? Karya Vyavasthita. In order to determine what is dharma and what is adharma, let the Shastra be a pramana. Let the Shabdas of the Shabda pramana, let the Shabdas inform you of what is dharma and what is not dharma. Jnatva Shastra Vidhanoktam. And having known what the Shastra is saying, Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi. You are obliged to do the karma as the Shastra is commanding you to do. We say, Dharma Rakshitaha, Dharma Rakshati, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. So protected Dharma protects. How does it protect? It protects one by giving one favorable situations. From whom does it protect? It protects one from oneself. Because Atmaiva Hyatmano Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. One can be one's own best friend and one can be one's own worst enemy also. If the free will becomes misguided, then the misguided free will is one's own worst enemy. But if the free will is channeled properly, then it becomes one's own best. And therefore, artha and kama should subserve dharma, and that leads to this well-being of this person. And at all the four levels that we talked about, it leads to well-being, harmony. And then it leads to favorable, conducive situations in the future, whether one is a seeker of materials or whether one is looking for spiritual growth. So having looked at this, now we talk about the Veda as being two Shastram, Shastra Dvayam. There are two Shastras within the Veda. And why are there two Shastras? There's a Veda Purva and Vedanta. We look at why there should be two Shastras. We say it is because the Anubandha Chatushtayam for both is different. We had looked at this topic of Anubandha Chatushtayam, the fourfold factors that determine what a Shastra is and that glue the student to the study of the Shastra. We talked about this in the context of Vedanta. We said these four factors are prayojanam, what is the benefit of the Shastra, Number two, what is the Vishaya? What is the subject matter? And third is, who is the Adhikari? Who is the candidate for the Shastra? And the fourth is, what is the Sambandha between the Vishaya and the Prayojanam? And we had taken this example initially of a medical student. We look at medicine as a field, as a field of study. Then the prayojanam of doing a study of medicine is that one is, of course, one gains the knowledge of the field of medicine, but the knowledge itself is not the end. The knowledge is applied in order to cure people and in order to make a living. So that is the prayojanam for this person who studies medicine. Then what is the Vishayaha? The Vishayaha is things like anatomy of the body, and then study of diseases, study of cures, the study of medicines, etc. So that is the Vishayaha. And who is the Adhikari? The Adhikari for the study of medicine is somebody who should be qualified, and he should have studied biology in 11th standard and 12th standard and perhaps written the entrance exam like NEET and passed it. But then this person should have some interest in the prayojanam. Firstly, he should be interested in the benefit. Only then this person will be motivated to take up that study. If one is interested in business, for example, more interested in business, such a person will not take this up. And similarly, one should also be interested in the Vishaya. And the interest in the Vishaya will come only if one sees the connection, the Sambandha, which is the fourth factor, between the Vishaya and the Prayojana. So this person should see that by studying all of this anatomy, medicine, etc., I'll really be capable of curing people and making my living in the process. That connection should be clear. So these are the four factors. And we say that this Veda Purva has got a different Anubandha Chatushtayam than Vedanta. We discussed the Anubandha Chatushtayam Vedanta. And in fact, we are discussing the Adhikari topic in great detail. But we discussed all of the Vishayaha, Prayojanam and Sambandha for Vedanta. Now, let us talk about what this Anubandha Chatushtayam is for the Veda Purva. So, the Prayojanam of Veda Purva is this punya that results in artha and kamaha in future. This is one prayojanam. It is this punya, this dharma that results in artha and kamaha in the future. You can say the prayojanam is artha and kamaha in that sense because that is the final thing. But it is through this punya, which is dharma. Then the second prayojanam is again punya for the sake of chitta shuddhi, for the sake of adhikaritvam for Vedanta. That is the second prayojana of Veda Purva. It can give both. It depends on the adhikari. We will see that. Then the question is, what is the Vishayaha? The Vishayaha, as we have seen, is Chodana, Lakshanaha, Arthaha, Dharma. It is all these do's and don'ts. That is the Vishayaha. And what are these do's and don'ts revealing? What are these Vakyas revealing? They reveal karma, we say. They reveal some action to be done or some action that should be abstained from. So that is why Veda Purva is also known as Karma Kanda, because the sentences, they reveal karma. They reveal some karma that is not knowable through the Laukika Pramanas. And then this karma can be at three levels. One is at the level of the body, where the body is involved. Or the second is where the body is not involved entirely, the limbs are not involved, but just the speech is involved. And the third is where the body and the speech are not involved, but just the mind is involved. So this is known as Kayika Karma. Kayika Karma means karma where the body is involved, the limbs are involved. And in that, the speech and the mind are naturally involved. The second is Vachika Karma, where the limbs are not involved. It is not Kayikam, but purely the speech is involved, and the speech is involved, mind is also involved. But that is Vachika Karma. And the third is where the limbs and speech are not involved, only the mind is involved, which is Manasa Karma, also known as Upasana. So this is what the sentences largely reveal. Then the question is, who is the adhikari for this? Who is the candidate? So the candidate can be two types, depending on the prayojanam we discussed. So one person may be interested in this dharma, which is punya, is interested in the prayojanam, but is interested in getting artha and kamaha through the punya. So he is a religious materialist, one who is interested in artha and kamaha through this punya obtained by doing the karmas. And on the other hand, there can also be a religiously spiritual person who is no longer interested in artha and kamaha, but wants to gain spiritual growth. Chitta Shuddhi, and such a person can also approach the Veda Purva and try. He is also interested in the prayojanam, which is Chitta Shuddhi through dharma, through punya. And then this person should have the jigyasa for this Vishaya. And how does it come? By seeing the connection, the sambandha between the Vishaya and the Prayojana. So if you do such and such a karma, you will get this Prayojana. But then, in order for one to see this sambandha, the first condition is one should have Shraddha in the Veda Pramana. And what is Shraddha? We discussed that Shraddha is this understanding that every pramana is self-valid, it has self-validity in its own sphere of operation. So Veda has got its own sphere of operation, giving it self-validity is Shraddha. This understanding is Shraddha. So, when the Veda says that such karma will lead to this prayojanam, I take it for a fact because this knowledge cannot be gained through any other means. No other pramana can confirm or contradict this. And secondly, is just as if one reads a recipe book, the prayojanam of the recipe book is not accomplished. One has to actually follow the instructions of the recipe book in order to get the dish, which is the final prayojanam of the recipe book. Similarly, one has to do anushtanam of this karma, whatever Veda is talking about, one has to perform that karma in order to get the prayojanam. So this is the sambandha, this is the relationship between the Vishaya and the prayojanam. This is one has to see this. The adhikari is somebody who has to know this. And when one does this karma, then it produces the adrishta punya. The karma ends, but it leaves behind this adrishta punya that then produces the prayojana. So now, what are these means and ends that the Veda talks about? Because it gives me the karma that is the means and the prayojanam that is the end. So the means can be two types, either known or unknown. The means can be something that is known or unknown. Similarly, the prayojanam, the end, can be something that is known or unknown. Anything in the world, you can say there's something that is known or unknown. There are only two possibilities. We say that when the means is known and the end is also known, then Veda is not a pramana in such matters. For example, I know that when I eat food, my hunger is satiated. So eating food is a means to satiate hunger. Both the means and the prayojanam, satiation of hunger, both are known to me. Both are drishtam, both are known to me. And this, the Veda doesn't have to come and tell me that thou shalt eat food in order to satiate your hunger. The Veda doesn't have to say this because this is something I know through the Laukika Pramanas. Similarly, thou shalt drive on the left-hand side of the road, right? For your own safety. The Veda doesn't have to tell me this because I know this when I drive around with people, I come to know this through Laukika Shabdas or through Laukika Pramanas or through this driving license rule book. I can know this. So the Veda doesn't have to tell me this. So we say that the Veda becomes a pramana when either the means is unknown or the end is unknown. Only in one of these two cases can the Veda Purva function as a pramana, or even the Veda, we can say entirely the Veda in general. So what are examples of this? So there are three possibilities remaining. So when we have means is known unknown and end is known unknown, we have eliminated known means and known ends. They are not the subject matter of the Veda. So there are three other combinations remaining. When the means is unknown, but the end is known. That is the first combination. Or when the means is unknown and the end is also unknown. That is the second combination. Or third, when the means is known, but the end is unknown. So in all of these three cases, the Veda has something to tell us. What's an example of means being unknown, but end being known? So let us take good health. So one wants good health, for example, which is an end that is known to me. I can know through the pramanas I have whether my health is good or not. I can know that. This is a known end. But then the Veda gives me an unknown means for accomplishing it. Veda says Ayushya Homaha. So if you do Ayushya Homaha, then it will contribute to the well-being of your health. This is a particular karma that can be done. And the Veda has given the recipe for it. Now, another example is one is seeking a child, a couple is seeking a child, for example. So Veda says, Putra Kameshti Yagaha. Putra Kameshti. So this is something that was done by Dasharatha. And that's how we know that resulted in the birth of the four children. So again, unknown means known end. Similarly, one may be seeking wealth. Basically, Arthaha Kama. Artha in this case. The Veda says, Avahanti Homaha. You do Avahanti Homaha, then it will contribute to the well-being in terms of your wealth. And then rains. One wants rains. The Veda says, Kariri Yagaha. If the Kariri Yagaha is done, then that will bring rain. So, what the Veda is doing is it creates this Adrishta. And you see that just like this dream world, what is the source of this dream world? The source of the dream world lies in the waker's vasanas, the waker's mind, which is not seen. So, the cause of what we are seeing, this drishta jagat, is adrishtam. It is not seen. The cause is not seen. And what these Veda is doing, it is directly influencing the adrishtam somehow in ways that we cannot understand through the Laukika Pramana. So Pujya Swamiji gave an example where he had participated in a Kariri Yaga somewhere. my Paramaguru, Puja Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji. So he said, and this was long back, perhaps when he was a brahmachari, I think. I don't know the full details. But at that point, he had participated in this yaga, and there were a lot of Ritviks who came and made the arrangement of the bricks, etc., set up the altar, did all that. At that point, the sun was shining brightly, and there were no clouds, etc. And then the yaga progressed. It was a fairly detailed yaga. And Swamiji says that even before the yaga completed, the clouds started, they blocked the sun. It started to drizzle, and then it started to pour. Even before the yaga completed, they had to run away from there because they didn't get their umbrellas. They got totally drenched over there. We say that somehow, if this yajna is done properly, it produces its results. We don't understand how, but it works. So this is the attitude of one who has Shraddha in the Veda. Then the next combination, unknown means, or known means an unknown end. Or unknown means an unknown end. Let's take that first. Unknown means an unknown end. So here the Veda talks about Swargakamo, Swargakamo Yajeta, Jyotishtomam Yajeta. Talks about the yajna called Jyotishtoma Yaga. And who should do it? Swarga Kamaha, one who is desirous of going to Swarga Loka. So here the end, Swarga Loka, is not seen. It's an unseen end, unknown end. And the means, Jyotishtoma Yaga. This means is not known through any Laukika Pramana. So unknown means an unknown end. And then the third is known means an unknown end. Is again, Swargalokaha is an unknown end. But Danam is a known means. One can do Dana in order to go to Swargaloka. So this Veda is a Pramana when either the means or the end is unknown. And this is true for Vedanta as well. Because in Moksha is an unknown end. It's an unknown Purushartha which is known only through Vedanta. And the means to it, which is Atma Jnanam, an unknown means, is again known only through Vedanta. So both the means and end are also unknown in case of Vedanta. So this is the subject matter of the Veda Purva, or Veda in general, we can say. Now, what types of karmas does this Veda Purva talk about? We say it talks about 5 types of karmas. Nitya karma. First is Nitya karma, an obligatory duty that any adhikari who approaches the Veda Purva is obligated, commanded to perform these karmas, such as Sandhya Vandanam, Aharaha Sandhyam Upasita, Aharaha Sandhyam Upasita. Pratidinam, every day, Trikala Sandhya Vandanam should be performed. This is the commandment of the Veda. This comes under Nitya Karma. And non-performance of this Nitya Karma results in a papam. Non-performance results in a papa, which is called Pratyavaya Papa. See, every human being is a mixture, is born because of a mixture of previous punya and papa. This is what we say. So every day in the life of the human being, some prior punya or some prior papa is unfolding. If prior punya unfolds, it results in a conducive situation. If prior papa unfolds, it results in an unconducive situation. So we say that the Nitya Karma, what it does is it's like creating fresh punya. that counters the unfolding papa. So this unfolding papa, which are committed in so many janmas, a portion of it called prarabdha has resulted in this birth. And throughout this life, my prarabdha is unfolding in the form of punya and papa. So this previous papa are like missiles that are heading towards me. Some small missiles, some big missiles. So what this Nitya Karma does is it creates these new anti-missiles, so to say, that go out and counter this papa that is unfolding in my life. So what happens if one skips this Nitya Karma, right? That means that some of those missiles are making more progress in coming towards me. Some of them may even hit me. So that is what this pratyavaya really is. It is accumulated papa that is not cleared on a regular basis. For example, if I don't clean my desk, especially in India, when we notice that if I don't clear the dust begins to accumulate. So I have to regularly clear my desk. So this performance of the Nitya Karma is something like that. Then the next thing is Naimittika Karma. See, Nitya Karma is an obligatory duty that should be performed. Obligatory karma. Naimittika karma is also an obligatory karma that should be performed when certain conditions are met. When those conditions are met. For example, the performance of tarpana on Amavasya for somebody who's for the departed parents or somebody whose parents are departed, and there's performance of tarpana on Amavasya or on a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, the performance of japa that should be done at that time. All these come under naimittika karma. So even other things like the birth of a child, jata karma, nama karma, or before the birth of the child, the pumsavanam or simanto nayanam, all these karmas, these are all naimittika karmas that are to be done when a certain condition is met. And then there are kamya karmas. Kamya karmas are those that are a person needs to do if a person has a very specific desire. As we discussed, Jyotishtomam Swarga Kamo Yajeta. Somebody who's desirous of Swarga is Jyotishtoma Yaga. Somebody desirous of a child, that's Putra Kameshti. So this is all Kamya karmas that are avahanti homaha for wealth. So for Athaha and Kamaha. And then there is Nishiddha karma, fourth category. Nishiddha karma means karmas that one should abstain from. Suram na pibeta, the drinking of alcohol. It's a Nishiddha karma, shouldn't be done. And then the last is Prayaschitta karma, karmas that are to be done if somebody does some violation of dharma. For example, one can take up 1,008 repetition of some particular mantra, etc. So these all come under Prayaschitta karma. So this is the subject matter of the Veda, Vishaya. So we have discussed Prayojanam, we have discussed the Vishayaha, and now we discussed the Sambandhaha. Now we are talking about the Adhikari. So the Adhikari, as we said, is twofold. Either someone who is a religious materialist or a religiously spiritual person. The religious materialist desires artha and kamaha primarily. So such a person can basically such a person can do the kamya karmas that the Veda reveals. But then in order for the kamya karmas to be successful, the Veda says that one should do the nitya and naimittika karmas also. And then one should abstain from doing the nishiddha karmas, the karmas that should not be done. Nishiddha karmas should be abstained from for the kamya karmas to be successful. And if one transgresses dharma, then one should do these prayaschitta karmas. So this is what the Veda prescribes for a religious materialist. And now the interesting thing is that these nitya naimittika karmas, they result in some spiritual growth also, even though this person is primarily interested in materialism. And therefore, this person who comes to the Veda, he starts to grow spiritually as well because of the nitya naimittika karmas. And then the second adhikari is the religiously spiritual person. And we say that for this person, the Veda says that you should avoid nishiddha karmas altogether. No, you cannot even think about engaging in it. And therefore, these prayaschitta karmas, they become redundant because this person is abiding by dharma. And then kamya karmas are also redundant for such a person because he is not interested in artha and kama. So why would he take up putra kameshti agaha or avahanti homa? He is not interested. So Veda says you just do nitya naimittika karma. Just the nitya naimittika karma. And when this is done with nishkama karma, then it becomes nishkama karma. He is not interested in artha and kama. It becomes nishkama karma because he is interested in spiritual growth. So when nitya and naimittika karmas are done purely with the intent of spiritual growth, Veda says that it will produce this punyam, this adrishta punyam that will bring spiritual growth. So this is the adhikari. And then the Vedas also talk about these different lokas and transmigration, etc. So the Veda talks about these 7 upper lokas. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. The 7 upper lokas, which one gains if one has a predominance of punya. And then it talks about these 7 lower lokas: Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, Patalam. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, Patalam. Where one goes if one commits papa karmas. One has predominance of papa. And then the Veda talks about this transmigrating jiva who goes from one loka to another. So it talks about this sukshma sharira that travels. And it talks about rebirth. For the Veda, every birth is a rebirth. It is not that, whether I will have rebirth after this birth. Even this birth is a rebirth because it happened because of papas and punyas gathered in previous births. And if one has a predominance of punya, the Veda says one can even become a devata in one of the upper lokas. When if one has predominance of papa, then one may become like an animal or a plant. Or one may go to any of the lower lokas where there is a lot of suffering. And if one is born as a manushya, then one is told that is primarily because the punyas and papas are in some balance. And that is why we say that the human life is always a mixture of sukham and dukkham. Now, the question is there a conflict with science in all of this? So we say that a scientist who truly understands what science is all about, such a scientist will clearly see that there is nothing that can disprove what the Veda says. Because when it comes to a topic like rebirth, the Sukshma Sharira is not even available for any of the Laukika Pramanas. Because even the Sukshma Sharira being made up of the Sukshma Panchabhutani is attributeless. So it cannot be seen through any of the Laukika Pramanas. And it doesn't have any of these attributes that are measurable like weight, etc. So one cannot say that I measured the weight of the dead body as the body was dying, and after death the body weighed the same, so there is no sukshma sharira. This logic cannot apply. So it is beyond the scope of any of the scopes the scientist may build, whether it is the stethoscope or microscope, telescope, oscilloscope, whatever scope the scientist may bring in, the Sukshma Sharira is beyond all these scopes and will forever remain beyond any of the scopes the scientist may build. This is the assertion. And therefore, scientists can never dismiss the existence of the Sukshma Sharira or rebirth, etc. So if somebody says there is no rebirth, and they are certainly entitled to their beliefs. Every person is entitled to their opinion. But they should also know that they don't have proof that there is no rebirth either. So in terms of proof, both the one who says there is rebirth and the one who says there is no rebirth are on the same footing. Both of them don't have proof about this. But the people who say there is no rebirth, they somehow want to put the burden of proof on the person who says there is rebirth. But what they don't understand is that all proving is only in the scope of the Laukika Pramanas. But the Laukika Pramanas can never confirm or contradict what the Veda is saying. And this is what the third principle of knowledge that the third knowledge principle that we discussed. And every pramana is self-valid in its own sphere of operation and cannot be confirmed or contradicted by any other pramana. So we talked about the Veda like the spiritual eye that reveals things that cannot be confirmed or contradicted by any other pramana. So what I don't see doesn't exist. What I cannot prove doesn't exist. That is a very naive approach. And in fact, even an irrational approach. This Swamiji says that a rationalist is somebody who applies reason to everything, but he cannot see the limits of reason. So, if somebody reasons about reason, then one can come to see the limits of reason. So this is what happened. In fact, um, there was this scientist who came up with this principle or a law or a theorem called the Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Gödel's incompleteness theorem. So prior to this, people thought that if there is a system of logic, then that system of logic can be complete and consistent. There's two conditions these logicians really wanted to see in a system of logic, that it be complete and consistent. So complete means that anything true should be provable. Anything true should be provable. That is called completeness. And consistency means that anything that is provable in this system should only be true. It should not prove like false things, then it becomes inconsistent. So completeness means anything true should be provable. And consistency means anything that is provable should be true. So logicians were hoping that their system of logic would have both completeness and consistency. But what Gödel proved is that in any system of logic, there will always be statements that are true but not provable. Not provable in that system. This is called incompleteness, Gödel's incompleteness theorem. So this is an example where reason is used to show the limits of reason. So we say that any reasonable person should acknowledge that there can always be truths that are outside the reach of reason. So for somebody who understands how pramanas work, the only way to know things that are outside the scope of Laukika Pramanas is to approach the Veda Purva and the Vedanta, to approach the Veda as a Pramana and to take what it reveals as being a fact. This attitude is Shraddha in the Veda. So now it should be clear as to why this discussion of Pramanas is like a foundation for the entire Veda and Vedanta. Because without the understanding of Pramanas, this appreciation of Shraddha and why one should approach the Veda as a Pramana is not possible. So, I'll just take a couple of minutes and conclude. There are some people who are overzealous in their Shraddha towards the Veda, and they say that the Veda is scientific. And there are others who don't have Shraddha in the Veda. They say the Vedas are unscientific. We say that both of them don't really know what they're talking about. Because to say that the Veda is either scientific or unscientific is as absurd as saying that these sounds are colorful or these sounds are not colorful. It is judging what one pramana reveals through another pramana, which doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, Swamiji quotes a Malayalam proverb, and I'm not proficient in Malayalam, so I cannot, reproduce it exactly. But the gist of the proverb is that somebody is saying in Malayalam, he's describing what this anjana is that is applied to the eyes by ladies. It's called Mai in Tamil or Kajal in Hindi. We're describing this, and he says that this anjana is white, exactly like turmeric. When one says this, one is revealing one's ignorance, not just about anjana, but also about the color white and also about turmeric. So similarly, we say that one who says that Vedas are scientific or unscientific, such a person is not only revealing his ignorance of the Veda, but science as well. And therefore, we say that an informed person who understands Pramanas will never make such a statement. So with this, I will conclude here. I apologize because I extended by about 5-10 minutes, but this at least made it like a complete module. We'll take it up in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So we'll have about 5-10 minutes for some questions or comments.
Hari Om, Namaste Satyan ji.
Namaste, Shardaji.
I got the rare opportunity of listening to your class on the banks of Ma Ganga. So I thought I'll just show this.
Very nice. Very nice.
And
Sharadaji
beautiful.
is actually, for others, Sharadaji is in Rishikesh at the ashram, and she's sitting on the banks of Ganga there and listening. Very nice.
It was.
Yeah, we also got a darshan of Ganga Mata. Thank you, Sharadaji.
Can you see?
And yeah, for you can also get a small glimpse of the ashram there. This is Pujya Swami Dayanandaji's. This ashram was set up there. In fact, this is where Pujya Swamiji. This is in Purani Jhadi, Rishikesh. This is where Pujya Swamiji used to live in a kutir there, in a small kutir. There's a description of it also. So he used to live in a small kutir there and do his sadhana. This is where the ashram is now. Thank you, Sharada ji, for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the one that you said about the limitations of reasoning in logic, that it in Malayalam, I remember, it is called Anjanam ennada Nyanariyam, Manjala Bola Veluthirukkum.
Oh,
That is in
excellent,
Malayalam.
excellent. Good, good. So, very nice to hear that in Malayalam in the original. So I hope that my translation was accurate.
Accurate. It was accurate.
Uh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so blissful. And the Punya manifested listening to your class on the banks of Maganga. Thank you so much, Satyan.
Any other comments?
So can I ask a question, Vishwanathan?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the beginning of the fundamentals of Vedanta class, you already explained to us the meaning of various three meanings of dharma. In the second meaning, you just today explained to us, like for example, the animals. They do their activities because they don't have any other thinking capacity. They do what they are supposed to do, and the order is maintained, right? For example, a tiger is supposed to kill its prey. It's doing its duty, correct?
Exactly.
Now, so by doing the duty, because of the previous prarabdha karma, whatever the punyam pavam attained by this tiger in his previous janma, so by doing this in this current janma, where it's killing its prey, it's in order to kill the prey, will it not again multiply its pavam by killing another jiva?
Yes.
This is slightly conflicting, thinking coming to my mind. I may be wrong or right. I don't know.
Yes. So basically, what the Vedas reveal is that an animal in an animal janma, it can only exhaust its prior papa and punya, but it cannot gain any new papa and punya.
Oh.
So an animal can never gain any new punya or papa, but a human being, because a human being has a free will, right? That is why we say right and wrong applies only to a human being, not to an animal. Whatever an animal does is right.
Okay.
It is just exhausting its punya and papa. It cannot be judged as right or wrong. That is why when a cow crosses a red light, nobody can give the cow a traffic ticket.
Okay. Right. Yes. Second subset of the question, I'll just complete with this so that others get an opportunity.
Sure.
I remember, I believe in Shastras and I'm trying to adhere to those principles wherever it's possible. But one question comes to me. I don't know whether it's right or wrong again. One of the yagas, I don't remember, my father used to say in those days, we have to give bali to that particular yaga. Whether it is cow or maybe goat, I don't remember that. So since Shastra prescribes it has to be done, so by killing that, the person who is going to kill, or maybe I do not know whether the pandit or maybe somebody else will be called and do the cutting and putting into the Agni. So it is again contradicting. Are we killing an animal and putting into that? Is it having a particular problem for the particular person? Or since we are following with the Shraddha of following what the Shastra says, so it's going to be only punya here. Since it's conflicting in my mind, I thought I'll put the question to you.
No, that's a very good question. And in fact, this topic is discussed in the Vichara Sagara text that I had mentioned earlier. So this is discussed in various Vedantic texts also. And the vidhi and the nishedha of the Shastra, the do's and the don'ts, they have certain adhikaris, right? So just because it is said somewhere in the Shastra, that doesn't mean you are an adhikari for it or I am an adhikari for it. The Shastra talks about even things like, a certain yaga called Shena Yaga. which is like forms of black magic, etc. That is also revealed in some of the Shastras, where one can hurt a particular person, right? So that doesn't make everybody an adhikari for it. So the idea there is that that there are some people, for example, who have an enemy, right? And that person would have used some laukika means to hurt that enemy, right? Perhaps attacked that person or done something. So the idea there is not to do a yaga to the Shastra is trying to discourage this person who has come to the Veda from using laukika means and say, do this yaga instead, right? So the idea is to dissuade the person from using the laukika means. Similarly, there is some people who do bali, etc., and then eat that and all that. See, there are some people who would have eaten meat anyway, rampantly eaten meat. So the Shastra wants to bring them into their fold also and say that you are allowed to eat meat. But now the Shastra places some restriction on it, saying that you can do it only on such and such a day, and other days you have to abstain from it. So then the Shastra begins to bring some rules and regulations even around that act, which is otherwise prohibited. The idea is to bring this person into the fold of the Shastra and then gradually make even this person grow.
Okay, clear. Clear. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, Krishna.
Yeah, just to add on to what Viswanathan sir was mentioning.
Yeah.
Not just the meat eaters kill, we vegetarians also kill, because plants also have life. Only thing is we don't kill directly, we outsource it to the farmers. But we don't have to take guilt for it, because that is the very design of life. Unless we are able to produce food ourselves, which only the plants can do, we don't have a choice. No other life form has a choice. The very design itself is that. So it is, I don't think we are vegetarians not out of morality, but we are vegetarians out of what we want to accomplish. If you want to become an athlete, or if you want to become a wrestler, you do a ABC, eat ABC. If you want to have a spiritual progress, you don't do that and do this. I think that is the understanding. I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But
yes, as you said, as life has to be sustained, and so we take it from the vegetable kingdom, where at least there is no open protest about it. I mean, if you try to run after an animal, and Pujya Swamiji has also talked about this, that if the animal protests, it runs away from you. So there is some himsa involved there, right? Whereas here, even the plant has got subtle pain, etc., but it is the least amount of pain we can find amongst the living beings. And then there are also certain unavoidable papas that happen even as a consequence of living. For example, you're walking on the floor, and then we are stepping on so many creatures that is possible. In fact, the Jainas take this to an extreme, the ahimsa to the extreme, and they sweep the floor before they walk, or they wear this mask type of a thing. So they are extremely sensitive towards ahimsa. But what we say is that certain ahimsa is unavoidable. And then that is why all the nitya karma comes in, because even though some small papas here and there are committed by somebody even unwillingly, these nitya karmas, etc., pancha mahayagya, etc., help counter all that. So that is just an additional point.
thank you.
Yeah, Guruji, here I'm trying to see the connection between nitya karma and prayaschitta karma. Is there any connection? Like if you miss some nitya karma, is there a prayaschitta karma to compensate for that?
There is, for example, if you do a nitya karma late, for example, right, Then when you do it late, there are certain mantras, additional, etc. that are prescribed. It varies from karma to karma. But the general idea between the difference between nitya and prayaschitta is that prayaschitta is something that is done for some special transgression, right? Where one inflicts, I mean, some discipline or some austerity upon oneself for that transgression. And somebody who is desirous of chitta shuddhi and who has not violated dharma, such a person need not do prayaschitta karma, but such a person should continue to do the nitya karmas.
Thank you.
So anything else, or shall we conclude?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Hari.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.